Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's a busy time for me right now, so I'm still holding off on making some of those videos I've mentioned that are coming up. The tag video. I've been tagged in for the favorite films, and the one I'd like to do relatively soon on the Batman problem I believe that Warner Brothers and DC has. But for this video I just wanted to do a quick check-in with the current story arc that's being told in Batman Rebirth comics, and this is the War of Jokes and Riddles. And it's basically the Joker and the Riddler at war. It's an amazing idea, wonderful idea for a story arc, and it's something that you kind of scratch your head, why hasn't this been done before? And it has been done on a smaller scale and alluded to, and there's always been, of course, a rivalry and stuff between the two, but never anything, to my knowledge anyway, this big, like an entire story arc, an entire, something that could be collected into its own graphic novel one day or trade paperback. So it's pretty, momentous in that extent. A lot of my friends and I were looking forward to this. Tom King's run on Batman has been interesting. I haven't really put my finger to the pulse of a lot of what the public reaction is to it. I know at first his bust into the Rebirth era with Batman really was great. It was a solid return to a more hopeful, a more human, a Batman with a heart, not just this cold, distant, manipulative RoboCop that Scott Snyder likes to make him. So he had a great initial story arc with Gotham Girl and in Gotham. That was great. I think I mentioned in my last video, things got weird after that with the I Am Bane saga. It just seemed to jump the shark in a lot of places, with both Bane and Batman. In general, though, his motivations were still great. He was still trying to save Gotham Girl, who had been driven crazy by the Psycho Pirate. So then Batman experienced the events of the Batman Flash crossover, The Button. And in that story arc, he actually meets his father from an alternate universe, in which it was the Flashpoint Batman, where his father was the one who survived that night and became Batman to avenge his wife and son. So he met Thomas Wayne as Batman, and Thomas Wayne basically told him, you need to have a life, you need to live, don't just be the Batman. And that was a nice moment. And of course Batman comes back into the Batman run here, and he decides that he's going to ask Catwoman to marry him. This was a little controversial. A lot of people, I've heard some good arguments for it and against it. I'm okay with it. I think it's a good story development. I certainly don't think, and I know there are some people, I have some friends who are seriously like, you do not F with them about Batman and Catwoman. They are really serious about Batman and Catwoman needing to be together all the time, forever. That's their match made in heaven and everything like that. And I do agree that I think Catwoman's the one woman in Bruce's life who's the best suited for him, but I've liked his other dalliances as well, and I'm not sure how I'd feel about continuity that just featured he and Catwoman together. That's it. I don't really know about that. I haven't really thought that through yet, or I'm not really able to kind of conceive of that just yet. Could be great. Maybe it has some problems, I don't know. But so I like the idea that he proposed to her. She hasn't said yes yet. So this War of Jokes and Riddles just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's apparently a story he's telling her about his early years as Batman, and we don't really know what the bearing this has on him at this point, why he's telling her all of this now. We don't get the purpose of the story, and that's a problem, I think, for an episodic, issue-by-issue story arc like this. We need to know what the big deal is. Why is this story important? And so he just starts telling this story. Now, as I said, the War of Jokes and Riddles, this epic, huge battle, and it just sweeps all over Gotham. It's brought Gotham to its knees between the Joker and the Riddler, and half the villains and crooks of Gotham City have sided with the Joker, half have sided with Riddler. So this huge, epic storytelling event, but we never really get it on any kind of epic scope. Tom King is just telling it in little vignettes, and they're vignettes that are so sporadic and in the weirdest little corners of the war that it's kind of frustrating. They're not poorly written, and each issue's got some cool things about it and some great ideas, but it just seems like there's this huge mound of gold that we want to experience, and all they're giving us is just chipping off some little shavings from random parts of it and showing us that. So that's a little frustrating. The other thing that's extremely frustrating is what is going on with the Riddler in this story arc. When did he become like a pimp thug? I don't understand this. I didn't read the New 52. I had no interest in what they were doing to the DC universe at that time across the board, even with Batman. So I didn't read this. So I don't know if this is something that's been, is this already established in the New 52? Would they already totally remake him in that? Because this is a completely different Riddler in every way than the Riddler we've known, and has worked so well as a shadow, as a reflection of Batman as a villain. He's still a genius. He's still got the incredible deductive skills. Still likes telling riddles, I guess. But this is, he's got his open shirt, and he's like I said, he looks like a pimp. They're trying to make the Riddler into Lex Luthor. He's an evil genius now, able to coordinate all of this stuff and inspire all this loyalty from people and stuff like that. It doesn't really make any sense. The Riddler is narcissistic, yes, but he's also a little neurotic, and he's nervous, and he's very obsessed. He's obsessive compulsive. I don't see anything obsessive compulsive about this Riddler. I see him, like I said, they've made him into the Kingpin, or something like that. So really turned off by that. Really don't like this. And it's really hard to, like, there's very little difference between the Riddler and the Joker in this, because the Joker, his whole shtick in the story is that he's failing to find things funny anymore. Batman's existence has just sort of brought him to a stalemate, and he's squelching his sense of humor and everything. So there's really not a lot of difference between the characters of the Joker and the Riddler. I don't really see that much. One of the frustrating things about it is that there are so many cool scenarios it sets up, but it requires suspension of disbelief within the suspension of belief of the universe itself, and that's too much suspension of disbelief. I'll give you an example of what I mean. The most recent issue has a pretty cool idea. You've got Bruce Wayne, like this war has just brought the city to its knees, like I said, and Bruce Wayne is offered to broker a truce, or some way to handle this conflict. So he's invited the Joker and the Riddler to dinner at his house. Now, it's kind of a cool concept, but it's just, how would this ever work? There's just too many logistic things. It's not that you can't believe in it. I mean, you're believing in a comic book world. You can believe pretty much anything, but a fictional world has to operate according to the rules of that fictional world. You can't just keep making up stuff new as you go along. That's when it all falls apart. And that's what it feels like this stuff is doing. So on the Joker's side, there's a great page or two in, there's some great art, and you've got a 2-page spread of Bruce at the table, Alfred's behind him, and on the Joker's side of the table, Joker's sitting there with some of the people who are loyal to him. We've got the ventriloquist, Mr. Freeze, and the Penguin. And then over on the Riddler side, we've got the Riddler with Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, and Two-Face. Alright, big problem here already, okay? So the Joker and the Riddler are seated at the table. I'm sorry, but there's just no way in hell Oswald Cobblepot is going to stand beside the Joker like a freaking henchman, especially in Bruce Wayne's home. This is utterly ridiculous. This is completely ignoring so much character development and so many things about these characters that is already established. Yes, I get this is early on, supposedly, in his career, but Oswald Cobblepot is supposed to hate Wayne, and he's supposed to want to lord his power over Wayne, show Wayne that he's so much better. He's not going to stand beside the Joker like a guard in Bruce Wayne's house at dinner. Utterly ridiculous. The same thing with Two-Face on the other side. How are all of these villains, all of these maniacal, power-hungry villains going to just sacrifice and pledge their loyalty and allegiance to the Riddler, of all people, or the Joker? Even though they're big names, I mean, these other villains, Two-Face and so forth, these are villains who are just as big and think of themselves certainly as bigger. So the notion that they would just all kind of fall in and take orders from either of these is really ridiculous. Now, even if maybe there'll come an issue towards the end that kind of makes some sense out of all this, that's still not good enough, because you haven't given us those, those are foundational elements that this story should be built on. If you're going to put elements like this in here, then you need to lay that foundation early on so that we understand it as readers. So even if they do try and explain it later, it's already weakened the story big time, because that stuff needs to be there. It needs to be settled. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have to say. I think those are my big gripes. Like I said, I think the biggest frustration for me, though, is that it's such a cool idea, and it could be so amazing, and it's just not. Now, I haven't read a lot of other Tom King stuff. I don't know much about his writing on a whole, but what little bit I have read, I've seen him capable of some really cool stories, and then some not really cool stories. It almost feels like, I get the sense, and again, I don't know because I'm not an expert on his stuff, but I get the sense that he's just kind of phoning it in here. I think he's capable. I think he could have done this run really top notch, but for whatever reason, and I don't know if that's interference from the editors or whatever, but it just it's such a wasted opportunity. It's really kind of depressing to read, honestly. That's my take on it, and just those are some examples, just using the last issue, of the ways it just completely ignores who these characters are and some of the things they would or wouldn't do that's already been long established in the mythology. Just pretty silly. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are if you're following the run. I know a lot of people were excited about it because, as I said, it's a great idea. I know a lot of people were excited about and came on board too with the Batman Catwoman thing, and it was nice to see some people giving Rebirth a chance, because Rebirth overall is certainly worthy of a chance. So it was nice to see some people return to the comic books and return to Rebirth with the Batman Catwoman thing going on. But then for the Batman Catwoman thing to just completely, like, it happened, he asked her, and then they're not even talking about it anymore because he's going into this long memory that's a story arc now. It's just, yeah, what the hell's going on, Tom? We need to know something. We need better than this. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours, and stay tuned. I will have some more videos up. I will talk about Batman, as I said, just to tease that video. I think Warner Brothers and DC, they have a Batman problem. Batman's a great character. He's a very close second to my favorite Superman. Great character. Grew up with him, and I love him to death. But he's mishandled and stretched far too thin in more ways than one, I believe, often. So I'll talk about that, get more into that later. But yeah, that's it. So keep enjoying and digging deeper into the superhero stories you love, and I'll see you next time.